Welcome to the EQ Academy. I'm Marcus Freudenmann, best-selling author, movie producer, and founder of the EQ Academy. Now, the EQ Academy is put together out of 7 areas of life, and we teach all 7. And today, I would like to share with you one of the most important ones of all, relationship. Now, if you go through all of our 7 chapters, all of our 7 classes and courses, you will see that relationship is the longest. Hundreds of questions and videos and movies, and it's really full, and it's probably the most attractive of all semesters that we offer, and it's really because nobody can escape it. If you look at relationship, I always say, enjoy the ride. You can't escape it anyway. So going dreadful through life, starting with birth and parents and kindergarten and childhood and then school and then all the bullying at school and all the problems, and then falling in love and having the right relationship and then getting into university. It's going throughout your whole life. You cannot escape. At work, everywhere, you have people to have a relationship with. Now, if you don't learn how to maintain a great relationship, then that can be a drag and a pain throughout your whole life. And that's why we teach that. Now, when you take a very rich person, take all their money away, and you put them somewhere in the middle of the road, somewhere in a different city, will they be able to make money again? Yeah, because they've learned how to do it. In a very short time, they recreate wealth. Someone who has empowered work and career and vocation, well, they know how to make a good profession, good income, and a career straight away wherever they are. They know their job. They know what they're doing, so they will be able to do that. A person who has learned to learn, to empower their mental ability to get degrees and diplomas and to study, they will be able to do that over and over again. That's why you see usually they have those long titles, with all the different shorts behind, because they just love to learn. And they've empowered that area and they can do it. Now, equally, just in the same way, relationship can be learned, can be empowered. Now, if you have not learned it in a way that works so that you have satisfactory relationships and you have all that nagging and challenging and envy and, stress and arguments and fightings and cheating and lying in your life and in your relationships, well, then it's not because it's not possible, it's because you don't know how to maintain it. And that's a simple thing to learn. Now, everybody can learn it. And believe me, we had people in our classes who went through dreadful experiences, really with bullying and with abuse and with all sorts of drama. And once they got the principle of relationship, once they understood how it actually works, their whole life transformed. Now their relationships are based on a completely different level. It's not by luck I have the right person. It's actually I create the relationships around me based on my values. So we'll get to that, and I'll explain you now in 5 very simple steps how you can create a stunning relationship. What I would like you to do is to take a pen and paper and write things down. And we have a few exercises which I want you to go along with so that you can actually really translate that directly into your life right now and start seeing the changes that unfold instantly. All right. Nobody can escape. We had that. It's part of evolution. If your mom and dad didn't have fun with each other, well, you wouldn't be here. We need relationship in order to keep our mankind going. So you can't run away. And it's fun. It's real fun. It's both beautiful and stressful. Well, that's certainly true. If you have babies and all night walking around, relationship can be strained. And with your wife as well. And if your parents are pushing you through school and they really mean best, but they do their hardest to make your life hell, it can be both. It can be really beautiful and it can be really horrible. And that's actually part of the whole thing. So I'll get to that in a moment. And it creates the most intense emotions. And I already mentioned that. It's our full-on area where everybody well, has a problem with, and all the other areas, they are more constructive. They are not as emotionally charged. All right, now let's look at the first chapter, Know Thyself. And I really start with that. See, you're not lucky or unlucky by attracting a weird or strange person. It's based on your beliefs and who you are, who you attract into your life, what kind of vibration you have yourself, and that radiates out into the world and attracts the partner that you need. So it's really about self-observation in the first place to understand how the other people fit into our life. Now, the very first thing I would like to ask you is, do you enjoy life? It's a pretty simple question. And a lot of people, they struggle with answering. Do you enjoy life? Now, it's very simple, and you will be able to answer that at the end of this chapter number 2. When you look at the first chapter here, and we have empowerment in all of those 7 areas, or not. Well, if you have many of those areas empowered, you will enjoy life. You will think life is great. Life feels super. You can do what you want to do, and you appreciate. Well, if there is a lot of areas disempowered, then that will be a drag and difficult. Now let's go through those 7 areas that you can evaluate yourself and your position in the world, how you are. All right, spiritual. Do you have a mission, a path? You know why you're here? Something, which is, well, you want to leave behind? My dad had that. He went out, he was born in a very poor condition. They had nothing to eat, nothing to wear, really lived more or less on the street. His father died before he was born. What did he do? His whole life. As soon as he started to earn money, he carried every Friday, every Saturday, big shopping bags to all the beggars in the city. And he brought them food and warm clothes and blankets and all sorts of things. That was his mission of life. His void that he experienced made him do that. Now other people care for animal shelter. They look for women with children with no husband and help them. Others create, sleeping places for the homeless. Others go into other countries and dig wells. Others just give donation and charity. It's really dependent on what is your mission, what is the void that actually creates that passion. A lot of people help others to overcome a problem. If I've learned how to make money, well, what do? I teach it at the EQ Academy. It's a spiritual mission to help other people to learn how to do it. Well, if I've managed to run relationship very smooth and I've learned my dues and I've observed and studied, then I can share it now with others so they don't have such a difficult task. That's what I call a spiritual mission. Do you have that? Well, if you do, write it above the line. A white paper, line in the middle, then you write spiritual above the line. If you don't really know why you're here, you don't have something like that, and you're, tending to go from one thing to another, you try certain things, but nothing really satisfies, then write it underneath the line. It's not that you don't have it, you just never learned how to find your spiritual purpose. We teach that at the EQ Academy, but this is really a very crucial point. A lot of people have never learned how to look into their life and what inspires them. All right. Now, relationship. Well, do you have loving, communicative, really beautiful relationships where you support each other? Or do you have more stress and challenge and bully and envy and fight and arguments and all of those things which make a relationship quite painful? Parents, non-stop nagging and challenging and running away and slamming doors. Well, if that's the case, write it underneath the line. Relationship underneath the line. If you have rather beautiful ones, write it above the line. And we can create a hierarchy, what's the first, what's the last, and everything else goes in between. But for now, we just create above the line, empowered, disempowered, underneath the line. Physical, lean, healthy, fit body, muscles, discipline, good diet, good supplements, know how to keep you healthy. Then above the line, if you couch potato, unhealthy, doctor, don't know, pain, aches, underneath. Very simple, no discipline, underneath the line. Then we have mental. Degree, study, learned, and it doesn't need to have a degree. If you have excellent information and you have all the knowledge in the world about sailing boats, well then write expert in sailing boats, if you could write a book about it. If you have great knowledge on how to bake cakes and you know everything about the history of cakes and where they come from and what countries they originate from and all of that, expertise in that field, write it there. It's not important what field. It's your ability to learn, to research, to study, to answer a question. Now that's called expertise. Knowledge, learning. You don't need a diploma to know it. The diploma might certify that you do, but you just need the expertise for us. Above the line if you have it, underneath the line if you don't really have that expertise in any field. All right, then we have finances. Simple. Does money work for you or do you work for money? If money works for you, above the line. If you have investment from your real estate, that comes back. Interest from your bonds, from your bank finances, from all the different income streams that you have. You create an internet business that is now running automatically and feeds you. That means money works for you. Or do you work for money and you struggle to pay the bill and you can't pay the mortgage and you can't pay the car, and all of those things are just going into all of those different areas, but you just need to work as much to get it done? Well, then underneath the line. This is really disempowered or empowered. And you can make a degree, like if you have no money at all, no savings at all, nothing at all, and you really struggle with finances, write it at the bottom of the page. If you, get by just about, and you have some savings on your account, well, then write it just above the line. If you have mountains of money and mountains of investments, write it at the top of the page. This is where you get your values from and you really see how important certain areas are for you. Now, social has to do with leadership skills. And again, it doesn't matter what it is. You can be a star in creating dog dresses out of knitted wool. Like I had a lady who was doing that. She had a blog and she sold thousands of them and she was really successful with that. Incredible, but true. Now, that means leadership. You have hundreds and thousands of people who follow what you do. You have 5 people. Again, we have that whole list. 5 people who admire you for baking cakes and follow your guidance, follow your lead, or do what you say, or you have 5 staff underneath you who listen to what you explain. Well, then write it just above the line. If you have hundreds of people who follow what you do, or thousands, or your spiritual leader or political leader, and you're right up on top, well, then write it at the top of the page. If you don't have anyone who cares, if you have actually more people who criticize you and you don't get appreciation, write it at the bottom. If no one says even thank you for what you do, well, then it's at the bottom of the page. And then we have vocation. Now, a lot of people say, I'm working all day long. That's not the measurement that we're after. Do you make adequate rewards or money in exchange for your work? Do you climb the ladder and get a pay rise all the time? Do you create business who bring you lots of money with lesser time investment, more organized all the time so that you improve and streamline and make more money? Then it goes above the line. If your work works automatically for you and you can even take 2 or 3 days off and still all the money comes in, then you write it very high up on the list. Now, vocation and career means you are so well set up and organized and controlled in that field and empowered in that field that you get the rewards and you have plenty of time for all the other areas of life that you love too. Okay? Not working all day and not being paid for it, that doesn't count. That goes just underneath the disempowered line, the middle line. And the further down, you don't love what you do, you hate what you do, well, that's bottom of the line. Okay? Now, that will give you an indication on where you're at, how empowered you are. Now, if many areas are underneath the line, how will life be? A drag? Very heavy? Very challenging? Very difficult? oh my God, and I have to do this, and I get to my finances in order, and oh my God, my health and my bills, and a burden. It's like heavy shoulders. Well, if you have several areas empowered, and you have success, and you have greatness, and your magnificence glories in all those fields, how does life feel? You remember what I asked you first? Do you enjoy life? Well, that really depends on empowerment of all of those areas. Now let me give you, and this is actually something we cover at the EQ Academy in great detail. If you have 4 legs, 4 stable areas in the top area above the line, then the stool stands really rock solid. Now you take 1 leg away, with 3 it still stands, but it's quite wobbly. With 2 legs, it falls over. Every little hint can tip it over to either side. True? With 1 leg, it's absolutely impossible. Now, a lot of people who come to me who have only 1 area empowered in their life are bullied by the environment. And it's not that they are bullied, it's actually they perceive the world too heavy, too incredible, too difficult, too stressful, which then can cause diseases. Dean Ornish said very beautifully, Marcus, help people to live life successfully and disease vanishes. I've done that with hundreds of patients. Help them resolve stress, help them earn money, get them educated in relationship, all of that. And their diseases will go away. Because once a person sees the world not as a burden anymore, then they don't feel overwhelmed by it. And this is why one of the most important elements at the EQ Academy is to empower at least 3 areas. And in week 4, we show you very, very clearly how to do that. It's very easy. Every area can be empowered. I had low value areas when I started out, and I empowered one after the other and brought them up. And I have actually proven to myself that it's possible. And with hundreds of students, the same thing. So it's possible. But the very first thing to make life joyful and not needing a partner to make you happy, but actually be happy and go into a relationship is the key that you have certain areas empowered. And this is where we need to start. It's that self-evaluation which brings you the clarity how the relationship is built right from start. All right, now let's look at someone else. And I love doing that. I actually do that all the time. As soon as someone comes in, I evaluate that person within 5 minutes. You can just ask a few questions and very simple, realize by their response, by their glow in their eyes, by their passion, by their, resistance, or by their, avoidance and moving back, by their body position, by the way they dress, by the car they drive, by the way they speak, you can evaluate their 7 areas within a few minutes. Now, what does that help you? Very easy. Once I know your values, I know how to communicate with you. And it's very simple. Let's just go back for a moment. How do you enjoy life? Or who you want to look at? Like your boss, your father, your mother, your spouse, your children, clients, nagging clients. Just whatever it is, look at their values, and as we go through this exercise, and try to see how they fit to you. Now, if they are very empowered, if they are very strong in several fields, they will look down on you. This is an unconscious action which happens automatically. They will look down on you. You have not as many areas empowered, which means you're still on your way up. I've already more empowered, so I'm already from a higher position. We call that underdog and overdog. The overdog is the person who has in total more self-value, whereas this person, doesn't have that much self-value, so it's a self-minimized to a self-confident person in the first place. And this is what you will find when you evaluate other people and their strengths and weaknesses. And I do that all the time because it helps me communicate first of all, in the person's value. We'll come to that in chapter number 4. But it really is one of those first things that you need to do. Now, when you understand how empowered they are and how strong, there is a very beautiful way of bringing that together with you and seeing which is your position to that person. You will have certain areas empowered, which might be low for them. Now you know exactly that's where you can support and help them. They will admire you for your strength in that field. On the other side, if they have certain areas, that's where they can help you. That's how you actually pick teachers. That's how you pick people that support you and help you grow if you consciously want to empower those areas for yourself. Now, as we know yourself, we know the other partner, let's go to look at some of the basic rules. And we need those basic rules to understand how relationship works. And there is actually a lot more. I've just grabbed a few out of it and I'll guide you through to see how relationship between two people works. Opposites attract each other. Now, that's something that a lot of people don't really understand how that works. You know, the law of attraction, I think positive, and a positive person will come to me, is not really true. The opposite is what attracts each other. If I'm shy and I'm not really able to speak up, what do I admire? Someone who can do that. So I admire that person, I give them appreciation, accreditation, and through that I go into their good books, right? That's how we fall in love with someone. We admire their strength, their body, their physique, their health, their success, their work, their career, their finances. All of those things that they have strong is what we admire in another person. And it's usually out of an area which we aren't quite as strong. We have then the other point, which is usually in the middle area. These are the areas where we both love. You know, like I have a great value in learning. My wife has a great value in learning. That's how we attract each other. That's what we talk with each other. That's what we communicate. Both really important. We both have a value in relationships, so that's what we communicate. Hers is a bit higher than mine, but it still is in an adequate level to communicate. But then there are opposing values. She's really adamant with health, high discipline, really strong. I'm not. Well, so that's why I admire her. And she keeps nagging me to do what I'm supposed to do. So that's the imbalance. And that's what you will have in every relationship. And that's the opposites that attract. Very often you see that. You know, I have a friend who is very small, stout, very well undersized and very overweight. You should see the women that he has, or the friends or girlfriends and now his wife. Beautiful, lean, small, tall, you know, really stunning. And I always think, how can that happen? Well, his disempowerment in his physical arena and his appreciation of that area, you know, of beautiful bodies and beautiful, tall, you know, exactly the opposite of what he is lacking, his void, drives his values. So he's admiring that and he brings stunners home. Well, what does he have? Seriously empowered. Knowledge, wisdom, career, and money. He's stunning. He's really one of those people that you could take out of a movie, you know, like a real businessman. That's his top career. Usually, all the women that he brings home lack that part completely. They appreciate and admire. What do they have? Great physique, beautiful, outgoing, some kind of leadership skills, some beauty. Well, it's exactly the opposite. And you will find that. Look at that. Take every relationship that you have and balance them out. You will see that there is a middle part and then the opposites are right just reversed. All right. Why does that happen? Well, if I can't sort out money and you can, now we're complete. If you bring that part into my life, all of a sudden I feel I'm perfect. I'm complete. I don't have to worry about finances anymore. If you're very intelligent and I'm not, well, then we've got that area covered. It's really, ask my husband. He knows. He's very intelligent. He has studied. Ask my wife. She knows all about that. Well, that's what I always say. It brings this whole thing together. We feel complete if we have a partner who adds that part to our life which we haven't empowered. Now, coming back to our first exercise, when you are low empowered, you need your partner to bring in many of the areas to make your life successful and happy, which makes you dependent. And dependency is the seed for jealousy, for mistrust, for, all of those emotions that we don't want. So that's really one of the first things to see. Now, let's move on. I can easily get distracted. This is a beautiful subject and there's so much to say, but I keep on going through my list. Everybody reacts to criticism in the same way. Now, how do you react if someone criticizes you? You go away, you withdraw. If I come back the next day, you go like, oh, not again, not him again. If I keep doing that, you'll slam the door, you will avoid me. In the end, you will really just, get angry and you create arguments and frustration and fights and all sorts of things. Natural thing. If you criticize over and over and over, you will seek for someone else who appreciates you for who you are, who loves you for who you are, and you will try to avoid me. Now that's, again, feeding into the same thing. Underdog, overdog. If you have a partner who is a lot stronger than you are, then that will lead them to non-stop push and criticize you to move you forward, to empower you, to get you going. Well, if you don't do, then that thing becomes always stronger. And I've written it here. It should actually be down here. It starts with a friendly suggestion. You could actually look after your finances a little bit better. Why don't you pay the bills and put up a list, and then have you done the list? Well, you still haven't done that list and you should actually. Why don't you do that? And I start to get annoyed and frustrated and pushy and violent in the end. Well, this is the sequence of things. If you don't empower a certain area, the banker will come, if you don't empower finances, and send you a friendly reminder you have to pay your mortgage. Well, then after that, they will come and start really putting a second reminder, which is not quite as friendly. And then they come and start threatening, taking away your house. And in the end, they do it, which means they're not bullying you. They're actually just pushing you always a little bit harder to get your finances in order. In the same way, the doctor. If you don't get your health in order, well, in the beginning, they might give you an injection and a pill, and then after a while, they threaten you with surgery and with chemo, and if you still don't get, they tell you you're going to die. It's a non-stop increase until you get your act together in every area of life, and it's with husband and wife and relationship. If you don't get your things in order, well, then the fights will become worse and worse and worse until you learn your lesson. Now that's a principle how everything works. And when we fall in love, we only look at the beautiful part. We only look at that which we admire. He's got such a stunning body and he's so good in sports, and I really appreciate the moves. You see how he moves like a panther. Really beautiful. Well, as soon as you get married and slowly that attraction wanes off, you slowly slip down to the lower empowered areas, and then you start criticizing. And then you come to that point which your mum pointed out before the marriage. Hey, he doesn't have a job and he has no money. Who cares? I love him. Well, in the beginning. But then all of a sudden that becomes a drag. Well, you still have no job. Well, we need money for our baby. We need money for the house. And all of a sudden the low value area, which you completely ignored in the beginning, will become really, really important. And then you start nagging and pushing and doing all that, which leads to him running away, walking out, cheating on you, starting fights because nobody wants to be criticized. You get the picture? We have high empowered, low empowered, criticism. So now we know how it doesn't work. Now let's go to how it really works. And I love that part because this is really how everybody can transform their relationship really well. Okay, respect, appreciation, and admiration. Well, for the top areas of life. You don't forget them. That's why you fell in love. This is what you keep always alive. You look for the high quality in everybody that you meet. Once you learn doing that, once you pinpoint the 7 areas and you do in 5-minute conversation with the person their top values, and you talk in their top values, they love you back. They appreciate you. They want you to come back every day because you give them that admiration and respect that every single person in this world deserves. Okay, now, everybody wants to be loved for who they are, but they still need a little push in their low value areas. Now, that's not bad if you push someone. It's not bad if you remind someone to get that going. It just depends how you do it. Now, real love means that you encourage someone to get going with their low value areas. A lady just recently said to me, Marcus, I really love my husband, but he is such a slop and he's so a couch potato. He doesn't care for his health and now he's diagnosed with cancer, but he doesn't do exercise. He doesn't do anything. How can I make him do that? The more I say, the more he gets upset and angry and moves the other way. Well, that's what we come to now. Encouragement goes a long way. Now, we teach at the EQ Academy a special method, which is called linking. Now, we link a low value area to the highest value area of a person. And that's why I said you need to know high priority values of every person. If money is a top priority, well, how can you encourage someone to take care of their health? Very simple. Now, we have covered all of those areas to every other area, so it's really full on when you learn it. But I just give you a few examples. If I tell at the table that a friend of mine went to hospital with his cancer treatment and it cost him, out of his whole savings that he put aside for his age so that he could go traveling, all the money is gone. $180,000 for the first 4-week treatment. And it's all gone and his cancer is still there. Just because he couldn't start the detox before, he was too lazy. Can you imagine that? All the money gone. I guarantee that will bring some very pinpointed spiky ears to your husband and he will start thinking about it. Now, that won't bring a change, but you keep throwing out seeds. You tell stories, you tell about other people, you encourage in linking to their high value areas. If mental is a high value area and you say, well, do you know that they wrote an article in the newspaper, if you actually detoxify heavy metals from your body, you can get rid of depressions and emotional swings and really all sorts of drag and brain fog. You can concentrate a lot better. You get a very clear mind. They said memory increases dramatically. Bing! There is so many links that you can build to every high priority area that once you do that and you keep seeding them and you keep feeding them out, this person will one day start with self-development. And this is really the very big difference. You cannot change your partner. You can inspire them with good example. You can actually motivate them by sharing those stories. You can actually intellectually educate them and give them more and more reasons to do what they're supposed to do, but you cannot change them. Now that's the downfall of 80% of all relationships. They don't empower each other, they criticize each other. Now that doesn't work. If you criticize, I walk out. If you motivate me, wow, why not? Hey, that's a great idea. I thought of something. I could actually detoxify because then I can learn better. Well, you will see that most people even make your idea into their own idea. They don't even realize that it came from you. Don't be angry about that. Don't take any pride in empowering them, be joyful about that. See, as a personal development coach, and I coach hundreds of people, I realize that you can take everybody to the water, but you can't make them drink. You can only encourage them, you can show them, you can link to their top priorities. If they don't want to do it, they won't. And then, well, it's their way, it's how they are, it's who they are, and I still appreciate everybody for who they are. If they have more reasons to be sick, well, yes, they have more reasons to be sick. You know, it can be taking the burden out. They can escape a bullying husband. All of a sudden the children come to visit and take care of mum because now she's sick. Now we need to look after her. A moral obligation, well, it makes mum's life a lot better. Why would she want to get well? Because now she's got the children all around her. They care, they are nice. Before, they had all other business more important. You know what I mean? Values. And this is why you need to find another people or another person's values to see how they act through life. And then you can appreciate them. If there are certain things where you like to nudge them and prop them up and empower them a little bit more, well, then do that by encouraging them and by motivating them. And this is why very successful personal coaches don't tell you what you have to do and you should do and you ought to be doing. They show you. They live by example. They radiate the success. They actually show you their own success. And through that, well, they get followers. People who say, well, it was my own idea. I started that development and now I'm successful. Great. Now that's the principle of every relationship, the basic, which makes every relationship harmonious. Now you can apply that to mum, to dad, to everybody, and you will see that within a very short time, by just doing two things, appreciating their high values and by gently motivating them in their low value areas, by great ideas and by giving them praise to their high ideas, high values, that they will transform into stunning relationships within just a few weeks. Okay? Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening and sharing my passion. And if you would like to watch another video, well, just stay with us. We'll share all the other 7 areas of life and what you can learn in them in following videos. All right? See you soon.